Hariom everyone, Hariom Rahul ji. We are starting the class shortly. We are doing this also on Zoom. So I'm waiting for my students to join there also. Just give me a minute. Hello Aksh, welcome to the class, welcome to the room. Can you introduce yourself? Yes, Sanjeev ji, you want to say something?
आई वांट टू आस्क
Yeah.
ये न्याय शास्त्र कितने हैं शास्त्र टोटल?
ये हम दर्शन शास्त्र की अगर बात करें तो 6 दर्शन शास्त्र है। तो इसमें हम न्याय पे अभी हम लोग कर रहे हैं। आज ये 7वीं क्लास है। तो बेसिकली अगर आपको थोड़ा पहले का संक्षेप में बता दें तो हम ये चाह रहे हैं कि सामंजस्य स्थापित करें, क्योंकि बहुत जगह हमारे यहाँ अनेक शास्त्रों के आपस में एक तर्क वितर्क होता है। तो अपना मत ये है कि सभी शास्त्र एक ही बात कह रहे हैं, खाली उनका निर्णय जो है, निर्णय पे पहुंचने का एक दृष्टिकोण है, वो अलग अलग है। तो जैसे वेदांत भी न्याय को क्रिटिसाइज करेगा, न्याय वैशेषिक से मिलेगा तो योग को क्रिटिसाइज करेगा। हम चाह रहे हैं कि सब एक ही बात कह रहे हैं, बट अलग अलग पार्ट्स ऑफ रियलिटी को डिस्क्राइब कर रहे हैं। उसी हिसाब से हम
हाँ,
इसको
मैं एक सवाल पूछता हूँ, आप मुझे
जी जी
बताएं उसका
जी।
जवाब। कि अब जैसे आपने कौन सा किसके बताया, सात पार्ट किसके बताया आपने? 7
नहीं,
पार्ट आपने
ये
बताया।
ये ये 7वीं क्लास होगी हमारी। छह शास्त्र है जो दर्शन
हाँ,
शास्त्र है, जो वेद से जुड़ करके जो हमारे मनीषी हैं जिन्होंने तत्व का दर्शन किया, तो उन्होंने उस तत्व को 6 प्रकार से उन्होंने उसको प्रदर्शित किया, एक्सप्लेन किया। दे प्रेजेंटेड इट इन दैट वे। तो उनमें से एक न्याय है, एक वैशेषिक है, एक योग है, एक सांख्य है।
नहीं, मैं
जी
एक ओवरव्यू चाहता था। 6 शास्त्र हो गए, 6 दर्शन शास्त्र हो गए, क्या बताया आपने?
जी जी।
6 क्या है? 6 दर्शन शास्त्र हैं।
हाँ, 6 दर्शन शास्त्र है जो आप कह
इसको छोड़
सकते हैं
के
अलग
नहीं,
अलग
नहीं, इसको छोड़,
सिक्स
हाँ,
सिक्स
इसको
डिफरेंट
छोड़ के और
साइंसेज
क्या?
आप कह सकते
नहीं, दर्शन
हैं। जी,
शास्त्र 6 हैं, और भी शास्त्र हैं क्या? नहीं,
शास्त्र तो
सिर्फ दर्शन
अनगिनत है।
शास्त्र ही है।
शास्त्र तो अनगिनत है। जो मूल शास्त्र है हमारा
ओके।
वेद है। हाँ, वेद है। वेद से फिर निकलने वाले शास्त्रों में हमारे उपनिषद
ओहो
है,
हो
ब्राह्मण है, वो सारे हैं।
ओहो,
फिर ये दर्शन
एक मिनट।
शास्त्र है जो हमारी फिलॉसफी बताते हैं कि कैसे हम उस रियलिटी को, उस तत्व को, उस भगवान को, ईश्वर, ब्रह्म, जो भी नाम आप देना चाहे, उसको कैसे जाने और इस संसार को कैसे जाने, दिस वर्ल्ड, दिस मैनिफेस्टेशन। तो उनमें से
नहीं, मैं पूछता हूँ अब मेरे, आप आई थिंक मे बी यू कैन आंसर मी क्विकली शॉर्ट में। कि जैसे
या
मैं जानता हूँ गीता जैसे है, अब आप इसको गीता उपनिषद है, वेद का सार उपनिषद है, उपनिषद का सार गीता है। गीता में बताया गया है मोक्ष कैसे प्राप्त करना है। अब ये
जी
6 शास्त्र, अब यदि मेरे को ये पढ़ना है तो मुझे ये शास्त्र, यदि ये 6 हैं और बाकी शास्त्र हैं, तो इट इज सेम एज स्टडिंग गीता ने। यदि मुझे मोक्ष प्राप्त करना है, आई एम आस्किंग यू वेरी स्पेसिफिक क्वेश्चन, यदि मुझे
जी
मोक्ष
जी।
प्राप्त करना है तो मैंने गीता पढ़ ली, अब मुझे ये 6 शास्त्र या और भी हैं तो ना पढ़ूं क्या फर्क पड़ता है? मैं जस्ट इस दृष्टि से जानना चाहता था, प्लीज बताइए।
सर, ये आपकी जिज्ञासा पर केंद्रित है। आप कहाँ जाना चाहते हैं? देखिए, मोक्ष तो एक अंतिम स्थिति है। हम लोग सोचते हैं पढ़ लिया शास्त्र तो मोक्ष हो गया, तो ऐसा तो नहीं है ना। ज्ञान कोई भी होता है, कोई एनी नॉलेज दैट वी हैव, वो उसको प्राप्त करने के बाद उस ज्ञान की एक एप्लीकेशन होती है। आप मोक्ष गीता के अनुसार भी प्राप्त करते हैं तो आप उसको जी के दिखाना होता है। आपको इस शरीर के अंत तक उसको पकड़ के रखना पड़ता है, उस पढ़ाई को जो आपने पढ़ी है गीता से। ठीक है। तो वो जब तक आप नहीं फॉलो करते हैं एंड तक, तो इसका मतलब है कहीं आपका समझ में कमी है या आप सिर्फ किताबी पढ़ाई है। तो अंदर की साधना जो होती है, वो साधना आपको जागृत करती है। ठीक है। तो अब ये साधना जब जागृत करती है, तो इस साधना को जागृत रखने के लिए इस तक पहुंचने के रास्ते अलग अलग है। ठीक है। वो हर रास्ता आपको संसार में विचरने के लिए, टू ट्रांजैक्ट इन द वर्ल्ड, वो आपको एक अच्छा नजरिया, एक अच्छा पाथ देता है। तो जैसे हम आप संसार में विचर रहे हैं, तो आप थोड़ी है कि आपको एक मोक्ष का ज्ञान हो गया तो आपका जीवन खत्म हो गया है। आपने जीना भी तो है ना। तो जीने की शैली में सब कुछ है, उसमें धर्म, अर्थ, काम, मोक्ष सारे इंक्लूडेड है। सिर्फ मोक्ष ही नहीं होता है। तो अगर आप उसमें जाते हैं तो हर ये जो 6 शास्त्र है, ये भी अपने अपने तरीके से मोक्ष की ओर लेके जाते हैं। अगर आप न्याय में भी जाएंगे तो उसमें भी मोक्ष, उस न्याय का क्या है, तत्वों के दर्शन से मोक्ष होता है। ठीक है। तो इस तरह से न्याय में एक एक तत्व को हम अध्ययन करते हैं और फिर संसार में कैसे उसको हम अप्लाई करते हैं, अपने व्यवहार में लेके आते हैं, कैसे संसार में हम जो भी कर रहे होते हैं वो न्याय बताता है। ठीक है। तो इस प्रकार से वो ये सारे ही वैशेषिक है, तो हर एक पदार्थ का ज्ञान देता है हमें। हर पदार्थ के ज्ञान से हम उस पदार्थ से बनी हुई वस्तुओं का जानते हैं। वैसे ही योग है, वो हमारा एक साइको एनालिटिक साइंस है। हमें अपनी मानसिकता को, हमारी वृत्तियों को, हमारी भावनाओं को लेके जाता है मोक्ष की ओर। वो भी मोक्ष पर जाने का शास्त्र है। तो ये सारे रास्ते वही हैं, लेकिन रास्ते में आपको आपका जीवन परफेक्ट होना चाहिए। लाइफ में आप जिस जो भी ट्रांजेक्शन कर रहे हैं वो परफेक्ट होनी चाहिए। खाली मैं अनंत हूँ, मैं ब्रह्म हूँ, ये जानना ही सफिशिएंट नहीं है। ठीक है। जब तक आप संसार में, आप व्यवहार में भी हैं, तो आपका व्यवहार मोक्ष के अनुसार होना चाहिए। लेकिन उसमें आपके व्यवहार की जो डिस्क्रिप्शंस है, ये बाकी शास्त्रों में है। तो ऐसा नहीं है कि एक ही शास्त्र पढ़ लिया तो खत्म हो गया। हर शास्त्र अपने में मोक्ष तक पहुंचने के लिए सफिशिएंट है। बट अगर आपको व्यवहार करना है संसार में और उस व्यवहार को सुंदर रखना है, अपने कर्म को सुंदर रखना है, तो आपको बाकी शास्त्र भी पढ़ने चाहिए। मनाही कुछ नहीं है। अगर मनाही होगी, तो अगर आप किसी को नहीं पढ़ते हैं तो शायद आपके इस संसारी व्यवहार में कुछ कमी आ जाए, कोई त्रुटि, कोई डेफिशिएंसी आ जाए। ठीक है। तो वो डेफिशिएंसी से आपका व्यवहार से आप किसी को नुकसान भी पहुंचा सकते हो, किसी का जहां भला कर सकते थे वो नहीं कर पाते हो। तो इस प्रकार से हर एक साइंस की अपनी यूटिलिटी है। हर बंदा तो हर साइंस में नहीं जाता ना। तो आप किसी एक शास्त्र को पकड़िए और फिर मोक्ष को पकड़िए। तो इसी तरह से अगर आप मोक्ष में वेदांत के थ्रू जाना चाहते हैं तो आपके लिए सफिशिएंट है। बट आप एक जॉब तो करते होगे या आप एक बिजनेस तो करते होगे, तो उसको एफिशिएंटली करते रहने के लिए उसकी एक नॉलेज चाहिए होती है ना।
योगेश
जी
योगेश जी, एक मिनट मैं बताता हूँ। मैं नहीं, जैसे
जी
आपने दी, मुझे पूरा भरोसा है मोक्ष
जी
प्राप्त करने के लिए गीता इज मोर देन इनफ, ये मेरा
जी।
विश्वास है। ठीक है, एक बात।
बिल्कुल आपका
अब
सही
आपने
विश्वास है।
बताया, हाँ, दूसरी बात,
हम्म,
अब यदि मुझे सिर्फ मोक्ष प्राप्त करना है, मोक्ष प्राप्त करते वक्त मेरा जितना भी व्यवहार कम ज्यादा जो भी रहेगा,
हम्म,
फर्क नहीं पड़ता। इफ आई मोक्ष यदि मेरा अल्टीमेट डेस्टिनेशन, तो उसके लिए गीता इज मोर देन इनफ, ये मेरे को
हम्म,
भरोसा है। अब अब
हम्म,
अब मेरा सवाल है, तो फिर गीता
हम्म,
पढ़ के मैं वहां पहुंच जाऊंगा। तो क्या ये
हम्म।
जो 6 शास्त्र हैं, क्या मैं ये 6, अब ये 6 में से किसी एक का अध्ययन करके और उसके हिसाब से लाइफ जी के तो मैं नहीं पहुंच पाऊंगा वहां पे, मुझे 6 पढ़ने पड़ेंगे या
नहीं
गीता?
नहीं,
फर्क,
शेव नहीं
हाँ।
पढ़ने पड़ेंगे आपको। आपको
हम्म।
आपके इंटरेस्ट के हिसाब से अगर आपको लगता है कि गीता सफिशिएंट है, तो आप गीता पढ़ के ही आप उसको पूरा करिए। ठीक है। अगर किसी और को लगता है कि नहीं, मेरा देखिए हर एक की मानसिकता अलग होती है। कोई किसी को साइंस में इंटरेस्ट होता है, किसी को कॉमर्स में इंटरेस्ट होता है। तो हमारे ग्रंथ कहते हैं आप किसी भी रास्ते से अपने अंतिम पथ पे पहुंच सकते हैं। ठीक है। वहां पे आपका दृष्टिकोण क्या होना चाहिए, वो आप वेदांत वाला रखोगे तो आपको वेदांत के अनुसार आपको गीता मोक्ष शास्त्र है, या उपनिषद, कोई एक उपनिषद ले लो आप। इवन छोटा सा उपनिषद आपका ईशावास्य भी सफिशिएंट है उसके लिए। जरूरी नहीं आपको पूरी गीता ही पढ़ने की जरूरत है, उसमें सारी डेप्थ है। तो इस तरह से हर हर एक उपनिषद अपने
योगेश
में
जी,
सफिशिएंट है।
योगेश जी, उपनिषद के बारे में भी मेरे को भरोसा, बिकॉज उपनिषद का शास्त्र, उपनिषद का सार ही गीता में आया है। वो गीता के बिगिनिंग में ही लिखा है कि उपनिषद का सार ही गीता में आया है, तो सभी
हाँ।
उपनिषदों का कंडेंस्ड मैसेज इज इन गीता। आई वॉज
हम्म,
नॉट श्योर अबाउट दी 6 शास्त्र जो अपने, उसके बारे में मेरे को
हाँ
डाउट नहीं था। अब मेरा आपसे
हाँ
बहुत स्पेसिफिक उपनिषद के बारे, उपनिषद में मैंने गीता पढ़ ली, तो उपनिषद
हम्म,
का काम हो गया मेरा मोक्ष प्राप्ति के लिए। अब मेरा आपसे
हाँ,
सवाल ये, आई वॉज नॉट श्योर
हम्म,
अबाउट दी
हम्म,
ये 6 दर्शन शास्त्र, जो शास्त्र है। अब मेरा आपसे सवाल है, यदि मैंने गीता नहीं पढ़ी, क्योंकि हर एक इंसान के पास टाइम
हम्म,
कहाँ ना गीता पढ़े, उपनिषद पढ़े, तो क्या सिर्फ 6 शास्त्र
हम्म,
गीता न पढ़ के, उपनिषद न पढ़ के, क्या 6 शास्त्रों का, 6 का स्टडी करके पहुंचेगा, या सिर्फ किसी एक का भी? मेरा सवाल ये है
किसी एक का
आपसे,
भी,
क्योंकि
किसी एक का भी,
हाँ,
किसी एक का भी।
हो जाएगा, सिर्फ न्याय शास्त्र पढ़ के हो जाएगा,
हाँ बिल्कुल, न्याय
सिर्फ न्याय
शास्त्र
शास्त्र
आप,
पढ़ के हो जाएगा।
हाँ अगर आप शुरू में जाते हैं, न्याय शास्त्र के शुरू में ही जो पहला ही उनका सूत्र है वो यही बताता है कि ये जो ये जो कैटेगरीज है 16, उनके ज्ञान से निश्रेयस साधन, वो मोक्ष का साधन है। ठीक है, उसको आप डिबेट कर सकते हैं, लेकिन जब मैं भी आपसे डिबेट करके प्रूव कर सकता हूँ कि वो भी उतना ही कारगर है। ठीक है, हमारी स्पिरिचुअलिटी बंधी नहीं हुई है कि इसी चीज को पढ़ के आपको मोक्ष होगा। ठीक है ना, तो उसमें हम लोग गीता को भी ले सकते हैं, कोई भी किसी भी उपनिषद को भी ले सकते हैं। अगर आप कह रहे हैं उपनिषद का कॉन्डेंस पार्ट है तो वो उपनिषद का ही ज्ञान ना। तो अगर उपनिषद में ही अगर मोक्ष नहीं होगा तो सिर्फ ये तो नहीं है कि गीता में हो जाएगा, उपनिषद में नहीं होगा। यू कांट गेट आइदर और। ठीक है, तो इस तरह से आपको उपनिषद और गीता में एक डिपेंडेंट और को डिपेंडेंट का रिलेशनशिप है। गीता उपनिषद पे डिपेंडेंट है, उपनिषद गीता पे डिपेंडेंट नहीं है। गीता उन उपनिषदों की थ्योरी का एक्सप्लेनेशन है। तो आप मोक्ष के लिए गीता से भी पहुंच सकते हैं, आप किसी एक उपनिषद से भी पहुंच सकते हैं, आप डायरेक्ट वेद पढ़ के भी पहुंच सकते हैं, आप दर्शन शास्त्रों से भी पहुंच सकते हैं। ठीक है, आई होप इट इज क्लियर।
नो, 6 मेरा सवाल था, 6 दर्शन शास्त्र पढ़ने हैं या एक काफी है? मेरा सवाल ये है सर, और
हाँ
आई विल
एक
नॉट डिबेट यू, क्योंकि मुझे
हाँ,
आइडिया नहीं है। आई विल टेक योर वर्ड फॉर ग्रांटेड, क्योंकि मुझे बिल्कुल आइडिया ना, आई एम नॉट इन अ पोजीशन टू डिबेट। मैं सिर्फ आपको
हाँ,
ओपिनियन पूछ रहा हूँ, 6
मैं
जरूरी
तो
है या एक ही काफी है?
मेरा कोई पर्सनल ओपिनियन नहीं है, शास्त्र जो खुद कहते हैं वो मैं आपको बोल रहा हूँ। 6 शास्त्रों में भी लिखा हुआ है कि वो मोक्ष का साधन है। ठीक है, हर शास्त्र के शुरू में ही लिखा है कि वो मोक्ष का साधन है। ठीक है,
ठीक
बस
है,
पहुंचने का रास्ता 6 अलग अलग रास्ते से लेके जाते हैं,
ठीक
अंतिम जो स्थिति है वो सेम है। वो आप चाहे
ठीक
वेदांत से पूछो, देखो 6 में गीता भी आती है, ये 6 में आप सोच रहे हो उससे अलग, ऐसा नहीं है। 6 में एक क्या है, उत्तर मीमांसा। उत्तर मीमांसा क्या है, वेदांत। वेदांत क्या है, उपनिषद का सार, और वही गीता में है। इन 6 में एक उत्तर मीमांसा भी है जिसको हम वेदांत बोलते हैं, 6 दर्शन शास्त्रों में। उसी के अंडर आपके उपनिषद भी आते हैं, उसी के अंडर गीता भी आती है। ठीक है,
थैंक यू वेरी मच, थैंक यू।
ओके, तो हम लोग शुरू करते हैं न्याय की क्लास। ओके बच्चों, रेडी एवरीवन? स्टार्ट विद द चैंटिंग। आई शेयर द स्क्रीन। ओम सहना भवतु, सहनौ भुनक्तु, सह वीर्यं करवावहै, तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं हवामहे, कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं, ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आय श्रीमन्नूतिभिः सीदसादनम्। ओम श्री महागणपतये नमः। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं, वरदे कामरूपिणि, विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि, सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः, गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः, गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म, तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। So welcome everyone. We are starting this class on the Nyaya Sutras. We have been doing the first 14 till now. We have finished 14 and we are on to the 15th sutra. So I'll just read the 15th sutra. If you have that any text on Nyaya, this is the first book, first chapter. So chapter 1, part 1, 15th verse. So what does it say? Buddhihi uplabdhihi jnana iti anarthantaram. So this, as you have seen, we are following from the 9th verse where it was described about the 12 different prameyams or the objects to be known, the objects of knowledge. 12 वस्तुएं जिनका ज्ञान हमें होना चाहिए. 12 things that we have to know. So these 12 things that we have to know, they were enumerated in the 9th verse. Atma, Sharir, Indriya Artha, Indriya and its Artha, Buddhi, Manah, Pravritti Dosha, Pretyabhav, Phala, Dukha, Apavarga. So these 12 are the prameyams, the objects or things to be known, right? So these are, as I asked all of you to make a chart. So first we have those 16 categories, and then out of that we have the first category is that of Praman. So Praman, we have taken the second page where we'll divide Praman into the different categories, and then the third page, this is the uh, where you have the second row, second of the objects to be known, the prameyams. This we are dividing into 12 categories. These 12 categories as is enumerated in the 9th verse, right? 9th verse. So here we have seen so far that Atma, we have understood what they are talking about. So in Nyaya, as we have clearly mentioned, uh, this Atma is mentioned here is the Jivatma, not the total Atma or Paramatma or Brahma, whatever we call it, whatever name we choose to give it. But this one is in the nature of the Jivatma, the soul at the level of manifestation, the soul that is working in the world, जो संसार में कार्य कर रहा है. So this soul when it is working in the world is Jivatma. And then what are the parts or what are the aids for the working of the soul? What does it function through, right? So it needs first of all a body, right? So that body is there, and then so that is sharir. And then for every body to function, it needs to have. Prachi is also joining. Welcome, Prachi. So we have this, we are talking about the Nyaya Shastra here. So we are talking about the 12 objects to be known. ये 12 चीज जाननी हमारे लिए जरूरी है, तभी हम ट्रांजैक्ट कर सकते हैं, हमारा संसार में हमारा व्यवहार ठीक हो सकता है. So that whenever we transact with the objects of the world, the people of the world, our behavior should be beautiful, our behavior should be the best, right? So for that best behavior to be there, we have to understand their nature, right? So we saw in, as I'm repeating again, in the first verse we have the 16 categories. So out of them, the first one is praman. So that we saw in the next few verses. Praman is the means of knowledge, right? So the different sense organs and all, through them we get to know different objects. And then the say next one is prameya, the object that we have to know. So out of those objects we have 12 objects: आत्मा, शरीर, इंद्रिय, अर्थ, बुद्धि, मन, प्रवृत्ति, दोष, प्रत्याभाव, फल, दुख, अपवर्ग. So I will not explain all of these. We have done this in the earlier class, but just in short, most of them we'll do later on. But the first three, sharir is the sharir is the body, the part through which we function, right? So that is the source from which the soul or the atma is able to do its transaction. Without this body, no transaction is possible. Then for this body to function, it needs to have some knowledge input from outside. बाहर से ज्ञान लेने का साधन चाहिए. Some way to gain knowledge from outside, from the outside world. So that knowledge is obtained through the sense organs, indriya. So those indriya we have seen earlier, that we have these 5 jnanendriyas, which are the seeing power, the hearing power, the touching power, the hearing, seeing, hearing, touching, and then chakshu, shrotra, rasna, the tasting power, and the ghrana, the smelling power. So all of these 5 powers give us different information about the objects around us, about the objects outside us. So all of these are available to us to analyze. And we have seen also that all of these 5 sense organs, ghrana, rasna, chakshu, tvak, shrotra. So ghrana, the smelling power; rasna, the touching power; chakshu, the seeing power; tvak, the feeling power; rasna, sorry, that was the tasting power; and shrotra, the hearing power. So all of these are born out of the 5 elements, right? So each of the five elements, what are the five elements? Prithvi, Vayu, Apaha, that is Jal, then Teja and Akash. So Prithvi Tattva, the solid state of matter, Apaha, the Jal Tattva, the liquid state, uh, Vayu Tattva, the gaseous state, Teja, the energy state, and Akash, space. Right? So space also we consider a state of matter. There are five states of matter according to our system. So modern science says three states, but it ultimately recognizes the conversion of matter to energy. So that Agni Tattva also is another form of matter only, right? So if there is interconversion, then they are the same. And then also we say Akash, which we see according to Nyaya, it is mentioned that it is the fifth element. So even all of these elements have an interrelationship with Akasha. And in modern science also, we have seen that in today's modern science, like relativity and all other string theories, we have seen that space can bend and space can curve. So depending on that, we cannot say that it is nothingness. Space is definitely a positive entity, and that is what our Shastras have been saying from times immemorial. Okay. So when we are looking at this five elements, we have to understand that they are acted upon by different forces. So when the universe is manifested, we say that universe that is manifested is uh, in the form of all the objects and elements around us, right? So each of them has a particular quality. That quality depends on the aspect that is displayed by any object. So we have what we call the three basic gunas: sattva, rajas, tamas. Three basic gunas: sattva, rajas, tamas. Sattva is the lightest part. It has the knowledge aspect, the aspect of knowing. Rajas is the activity part. It has the characteristic of movement. And tamas is the inertial part. It has the tendency of rest or relaxation. Because for any activity, unless we rest, we will not be rejuvenated to continue that activity a second time, right? So these are the three gunas. These three gunas, they act on all these five elements, and they split them up into three parts. So each element splits into its lighter part, the knowledge aspect, its medial part, that is the activity aspect, and its lower part, the tamas aspect. So the Gyanendriyas, because they give us knowledge, they have the knowledge aspect. So Gyanendriya are born out of the sattvic aspect of the five elements. Then again the Karmendriya, the active, the five Karmendriyas, they are born out of the Rajasic aspect of the three gunas. And then finally the Tamasic aspect, the uh, visible material part of the five elements, that is the tamasic aspect, right? So all these gyanendriyas, as we have seen so far, they are able to uh, cognize or know objects. And so what are the objects that they know? The objects that they know are, we say, gandh, ras, roop, shabd, sparsh. These are what we call the indriya artha, the objects of the sense organs. जिन चीजों को इंद्रिय जानती है, the sense organs know which object. So that object is called the indriya artha. So gandha is smell, which is known by the gyanendriya, which is ghrana, the smelling power, right? And similarly, rasa is the taste, which is known by the rasna indriya, the taste, the tongue or the tasting power. And then uh, roop is form. Form is cognized by the eye, the seeing power. Hmm. Then fourth is sparsha, that is the feeling power, which is known by touch. Twak indriya, the twak indriya. So twak indriya helps us to feel the touch of any object. And then finally, the shrotra, the hearing power, its sense object is shabda, words, sounds, right? So these sounds are known by the hearing power. So when we are all able to know the objects of this world through the sense organs, then we have to understand where that knowledge is going to go. वो ज्ञान कहाँ जाएगा, how will that knowledge be analyzed, right? So that we say it goes to the inner instrument, antakaran, our inner instrument. So inner instrument we define that it splits into four parts. Not there are four inner instruments, but one inner instrument, but according to the function it is given different names. So when this we are talking about the inner instrument, then we have four parts: buddhi, man, chit, and ahankar. So buddhi is the knowing power, the one that decides on any knowledge that comes into us. Mana is the sankalpa vikalpatmaka mana, we say. Man is the one that coins all the options. Man is the one that coins all the options, right? And then we have chitta, which stores all the memories. Chitta, it stores all the memories. So when any action is to be done today, we take a reference from that chitta where all our previous experiences are stored, and based on that we do any action that we are about to do in the current time, right? And then finally ahankar, the ego, the one that says I am the doer of the action, the one that takes ownership of any activity or action. So in this way, when we are able to, so in this way, we have seen the Antakaran 5 parts. Now, what is this 15 verse saying? If you read again, Buddhi, Buddhir Uplabdhir Jnanam iti Anarthantaram. Right? So, what he's saying is Buddhi, Uplabdhi, Jnanam iti Anarthantaram. But it is saying that all of these three, Buddhi, that is knowledge, uh, then Uplabdhi, to attain something, and Jnanam, that is again knowledge. So these are all the same. They have a similar meaning. So if we go a bit deeper into the meaning of the verse, and we would like to also understand that this verse is saying something that resolves a lot of criticisms of Nyaya by different other sciences or other shastras, that is Vedanta, right? So what is it saying? Buddhi is the knowledge that is born out of any interaction. Yeah. Bodha iti buddhi, we say. Bodha is knowing something. And then uplabdhi is attaining something. Whenever we uh, have any knowledge, it is called attainment of that knowledge, right? We attain that knowledge. So uplabdhi is that attainment of the knowledge. And jnanam, the knowledge itself, the knowledge that when I see a uh, object before me, I say this is a book. Then this knowledge that this is a book, that is the jnanam, that is the knowledge, right? And that knowledge is retained or obtained in the buddhi, in the inner instrument, right? So these three, that is knowledge, uh, then the knowledge itself, the attainment of the knowledge, and the instrument through which the knowledge is being attained, these three are considered the same in Nyaya, right? So here we have to understand one more thing, that I'll just explain the meaning of this word anarthantaram, in the end of the sutra. So if you look at that, antaram is difference. uh, Antaram is difference. So arthantaram is difference of meaning. And an, if you add it, it is the reverse. So it says no difference of meaning, right? So these three have no difference of meaning. That is buddhi, jnanam, and uplabdhi, right? So when we say that this when we are talking about buddhi, then generally we will remember the definition. If those of you have attended the Vedanta class, then that buddhi represents, in that Vedanta class we have seen, it is a part of the inner instrument. So we say that it is a power of the soul, it is a power of the atma. So because we say any power or any shakti is jada, so so those who follow Vedantic definition, they will say that buddhi is jada. So how can buddhi be defined as knowledge itself, right? So here we have to understand clearly how Nyaya is describing buddhi. That will clarify all our doubts, because a lot of people in Vedant will say that those who study Vedant, they criticize Nyaya definition, saying that how can buddhi, which is jada, be called knowledge itself, right? So if we look at buddhi in itself, then buddhi is of course an instrument, so you can say that it is jada. But actually in Vedanta, in Nyaya, we are taking the whole composite of the consciousness, the intellect or the buddhi, the mind, the sense organs and their powers, all of these we are taking as one unit. We are taking as one unit. So knowledge with, there we cannot separate from the knower. So we are taking all of that as one composite unit. So there when we are talking about buddhi, it is not just that instrument in itself. It represents the whole unit of, that is called, what we call in Vedanta, the Jivatma. Right? So here the consciousness is always associated with buddhi. It is inseparable from buddhi. So there, that is what we are talking about. The actual knowledge aspect only is called buddhi in Nyaya. Right? So I'll just explain from the Vedantic side again. In Vedanta, what do we say? We say that this, when we are talking about buddhi, we say there is a consciousness that is infinite. It is reflected by the buddhi. That reflected consciousness falls on the object, and from the reflection obtained from the object, we are able to know the object. Right? Now, uh, that reflected consciousness, when we are talking about the infinite soul, in the infinite soul there is no duality. दो चीजें नहीं है वहां पे, संसार नहीं है, जीव नहीं है, कुछ नहीं. So there actually the separation of the consciousness, existence and joy, there, that is not there. That is not there at the total, at the ultimate level. At the ultimate level, these three are not separate. At the ultimate level, these three are all the same only. Right? So when these three are all the same, then there we don't need to separate consciousness from the objects around us. But when we are talking about the manifest level, at the Jagat level, then here the consciousness is being uh, reflected through the mind and the intellect. And here the mind and intellect, since they are reflecting the consciousness, that reflected consciousness is considered as an integral part, as a total part of the Jivatma only. So there we do, in the Jivatma, according to Nyaya, we don't separate there. The reflected consciousness is very much a part of the inner instrument. It is not separable. अलग अलग नहीं मिलते. इसीलिए that is why in the Nyaya, according to Nyaya system, buddhi also is considered as equivalent to jnanam. Buddhi and buddhi, the knowing power and knowledge are inseparable, because here only we are able to know objects. No, in the ultimate atma there is no object to be known, but in the jivatma there is a jagat, there is a world that is to be known. So here whatever the reflected consciousness is, yeah, that reflected consciousness associates with the buddhi, and through that buddhi it is able to know the different objects around us. So here we should be very clear that the buddhi is doing what job? It is doing the job of telling us what that object is which we are experiencing. It is giving us the final decision, the final knowledge that this is the object we are knowing. So this is the basic purpose, this is the basic meaning of this sutra. I took some time extra on this because you have to be very clear, because otherwise if you go through other systems they will say, they will criticize each other. Actually they are saying the same thing only. In, if you go to the basic source of our knowledge, they are the Upanishad. In the Upanishad no such definitions are given for separating buddhi and all that. No separate definition, they are just mentioned. So you have to understand that, like if I call myself as a person, then this person includes all the powers within me. They are not separate within from me. My hand, I am not my hand. I'm not my body. I'm not my seeing power. I'm not my hearing power. I am all. I am a composite of them all. So in Nyaya we talk of it in composite terms. But in Vedanta we talk of it as separate terms. There is one Brahman, Brahm or Paramatma, and there is one Jivatma. We separate them. But in Nyaya, we don't separate them, because here we are not talking about that ultimate one. Okay, so buddhi uplabdhi jnanam iti anarthantaram. So we have understood here clearly that this buddhi is the power through which we know objects. So what is the associate of the buddhi? the associate of buddhi is the mind, right? So buddhi is going to give us the final knowledge of what we are experiencing. That this is what I am experiencing. But if you are looking at the other part of it, that is what when we are experiencing something, we experience a composite experience made of many different experiences. So there is another part of it which is called the manaha, the mind. So this mind is the one that gives the buddhi all the different options, right? So if we are looking at an object, then the size of the object, the shape of the object, and its function of the object, its maybe its taste in some cases, its touch or texture in some cases. All these inputs are provided by the sense organs to the mind first. So first the information comes to the mind. So if you are looking at the next verse, we'll just read and then I'll be able to explain to you. So we are looking at the next sutra. I'll say sutra proper. Sutra is the proper word. So युगपज ज्ञानान उत्पत्ति ही मनसो लिंगम. युगपज ज्ञानान उत्पत्ति ही मनसो lingam. So if we split it up, it is yugpat, the sound. The will convert to ja when it joins with the next word and sandhi is there. So yugpat jnanat utpatti hi manaso lingam. So what is the mind? Is it saying what is the lingam? Is the mark or the signature or the sign of something, right? So if we are looking at a door and someone writes door on a page, then that door that you have written on the page is a symbol. It is a symbol that expresses it. So for everything there is a name or a word or a symbol. Uh, so so how do we know what the mind is? Mind is something which is through which we are seeing things, right? We are through which we are, but we cannot see the mind itself. Can we see the mind? We can only see the movements of the mind. What are the different? The atma can see, the soul can see. What are the different thoughts that are running through the mind? What are the different activities? What are the different plans? What are the different emotions that are going on through the mind, right? But the mind itself, we cannot see. The mind expresses itself through these emotions and thoughts. Emotions and thoughts. So basically what we say, mind expresses through vritti, the thoughts. Vritti are the different thoughts through which the mind is able to express itself. So how are those thoughts obtained? They are obtained by the input received from the sense organs. जो भी बाहर से इंद्रियां हमको information देती है, whatever the sense organs information they bring to us from outside, that is received by the mind. So through it, the mind forms different cognitions, different information. And that information is then collated or put together by the intellect, the buddhi, to give us a final result or a final decision about what we are experiencing. Right? I hope it is clear so far. Anyone wants to ask a question or anyone wants to clarify something? Okay, so we are continuing then. Uh, I'm assuming that we are always have our bright students here. Everyone is understanding. So, so nothing is different. There are 2 minutes left for the Zoom meeting. So those who are joined on Zoom, please reconnect after that in case it just disconnects. So when we are talking about the manaha, the mind. So this mind we have to know as the one that is receiving the knowledge. But how is it this knowledge being received? Yupat jnana. By the by a sense of contact. Contact with what? Contact with the sense organs. Right? So mind by contact with the sense organs, uh, by what we call sannikarshaha, which we saw in the previous verses when we are talking about the jnanendriyas. So all of these through that contact, first the sense organs they directly come into contact with the object, then the information from the sense organ comes into contact with the mind, which is called the yukpat gyan, the knowledge produced on contact, the contact knowledge, the knowledge produced by contact of the mind with the sense organ. So here one very important corollary you have to remember first: how many sense organs does the mind get in touch with at any given time? it can be only one, right? At one time, it can be receive input from only one. But how are we able to do all the functions together? We say that the knowledge is simultaneous. That is why sometimes when we are smelling something, then our hearing sense goes out of range, because our focus is on the smell. And so in this way for all kinds of knowledge. So what does the mind do? It we lost the Zoom connection, so we are reconnecting there. I'll just take a pause for a few seconds so those who were joining, they can join. Welcome. So then we shall continue then. Uh, so when we are talking about the mind here, right? We are talking about the mind. So this mind is receiving the input from the sense organs, right? From the sense organs. So when the sense organs give the information, that information is always in a serial or sequential manner, right? In the sequential manner. So we follow a certain sequence. So all of these sense organs, they will give information to the mind in a sequence. And when all of this knowledge is received, then this knowledge is analyzed by the mind and fed to the intellect, which then makes a decision, right? So that decision can be purely in the form of knowledge, in deciding that this is the object I'm experiencing. That decision can be in the form of action, in the form of when I've seen some object, then what am I to do with the object, right? So when I'm seeing an object, like I say a cup of coffee is put in front of me, so seeing that I might have the inclination to drink it. So that is the decision of the buddhi, the intellect, that it will say you have to partake of it. Then again another buddhi might come in. The buddhi might say this contains sugar. Sugar is not good for you. So you should refrain from having these. Maybe prepare another cup without sugar. Or the coffee is put in front of you and you say, I have to add sugar according to my requirement. So if I need to put less sugar, I will put less. If I need to put more sugar, I will put more. So then here what we are doing is the action part, karma. Whatever activity we are going to do, or whatever, because lot of objects that we experience in our world, we need not interact with them, we need not transact with them. हमारा जरूरी नहीं है उनसे व्यवहार हो. We see so many infinite number of objects daily, but we transact with only a limited number of them, right? So whether that transaction will take place or not, that is dependent on the buddhi, right? And what else it is dependent upon? If you remember from the Vedanta class, George, can you tell me? Okay, George, are you in a position where you can talk, or you're traveling?
Are you able to hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, brilliant. Sorry, could you repeat the question for me?
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that the buddhi is going to decide on the course of action, or whether it wants to transact with a certain object or not, right? And so
Sure.
for that, we need the input from the different sense organs. Yes. So once the
Yeah.
input has been received, then the buddhi can decide whether to act or not. Then there is a
Sure.
second factor, depending on which whether the buddhi will interact with that object or not. What is the second factor?
As in, is this factor determining the way in which it interacts or whether or not it interacts?
Yeah, sort of like that. The way in which it will transact, that is dependent on our previous experience.
Yeah, so
That is stored in
vast,
our inner memory,
yeah,
chittam. Yeah. So there we have sanskaras, different expressions or different experiences that are there in there. So if from that experience I might decide that this certain kind of coffee is to my liking, I will like this coffee. I have tasted it before, so I want to try it again. So that the sanskar in the chittam, that experience, or the memory of the previous experience that is there in our memory faculty, that will also decide whether we will transact with an object or not. So in this way, the mind can decide whether or not to transact with any object, right? So this way it will go on, so it will make its decision. So we have seen clearly the mind, the mind has given us different options. Based on that, the buddhi will have to make two kinds of decisions. One is the nature of the object. It will decide this is the object, and it will give us a total uh, decision on that. This is the object I am experiencing. That decision will be in the form of a name of the object or a description of the qualities of the object, and so on. And the second one, as I said, is action or transaction, whether it will choose to transact with that object or not. So daily we see and experience so many objects. Some we experience just in the mind, in the sense of enjoyment. We see a beautiful river or a stream, or we are passing over a lovely bridge. We choose to enjoy the view, right? So that is one kind of transaction. And another kind of transaction is when we actually uh, take that object, we either ingest it, or we either hold it, touch it, feel it, play with it, and so on. So different ways in which we transact with an object. So in this way, the manaha is able to take different inputs from the sense organs, and it will give them to the buddhi for forming a final decision. And so the mind is giving different uh, options to the buddhi or our internal organs. And then we look at the next verse, 17. 16 we have seen. Next is 17. Pravritti. So here we are defining action, activity, why we need to do activity. So we'll come to its connection with the previous sutra also. Pravritti vag buddhi sharir arambha iti. So pravritti, what is activity or pravritti? The proclivity to transact with something. So what is this activity? That which makes the vag, the voice, the vani, the speaking power, and then buddhi, the deciding power, and sharir, the physical gross body, they that is arambha iti, makes them begin their action, right? So what is pravritti? It is something that will make our mind, body, intellect, and our voice to do some kind of action, right? So what are the different kind of actions here? We can understand the one kind of action is the bodily action, where we do something physically by the body. So that is sharir pravritti. Then there is the vak pravritti, where we say something. What we call something at the level of the speech, right? So first one is sharirik karma. Then second one is vani karma. Because through the vani also we can make a lot of effect or change in the world. We can have an influence on people around us. We can make them. In fact, we can make other people go on to activity through our speech. We can encourage them. So that is what we call vak karma. And then the third one is manas karma, the actions that we do through the mind. So here the word used is buddhi, because buddhi and mind are intricately interconnected. So as we saw in the previous verse, that when the buddhi, it makes up a decision about a certain object, that it needs to do a transaction, right? It needs to do a transaction with that object. So then that transaction, when it is to be done by the buddhi, it makes a decision about the nature of the transaction. What kind of action I can do, right? So that action can be of three different kinds. So this, what are the three different kinds? It can be action related to the body, sharira. So where we go and do any physical activity. So if I need to hold an object, and I need to play with an object. So that is sharir, sharirik pravritti. Then the next one is, as we saw, vak pravritti. So the buddhi will decide to speak about something. Like I am reading a book, and I have learned some interesting information from there. or I'm watching a TV show, or I'm listening to a wonderful speaker. So that knowledge I might decide to express to other people. I can talk about it. So when I do some interaction with other people, then I go to them and I talk about that, and I pass on that knowledge to them, right? And so through this vag karma or vag pravritti, I'm able to do some action which will influence other people, and that is second kind of action, second kind of pravritti. So and then the third one, as we saw, the activity of the mind or the buddhi. So the buddhi or the mind, mentally we might plan something, we might think of something, we might write, before writing any poetry we have to visualize in our mind. Before writing any book or novel, we have to visualize in our mind. So that whatever we visualize in our mind, we have to understand and plan. So that planning is called manas karma, mental action. So that mental action which is done, it helps us plan out or define something that we might do physically. It might plan out something that we might express at the vocal level, or it might be something that will stay at the mental level, but it might express later on in the other aspects, right? So all of these are the three karmas. We say that through the mind also we can physically also influence people. When we have good thoughts within us, the aura that we carry, it helps to provide, it gives positive vibrations to people around us. It shows on our face also. People can judge you, sure. So those who have been in contact with their mothers, they can tell. Your mom will instantly judge your mood according to the way you are thinking or what you are going to do. She can tell, right? So that thing is, it needs a person capable of catching that mood. So but that mood can be caught, so that whenever any mental uh, thought comes within you, it might be a harmful thought. It will make you appear morose or dull, or angry, or even to the way of appearing dejected and so on. So every kind of thought, every kind of emotion will create a physical effect also outside, which can be judged by people. It will create a vibrational effect outside, which can even actually do harm to other people. So some people, when they are wishing someone bad, so if they are pure of heart, then they have been hurt by someone, then their, we say what we call baddua, for their bad words, can affect the other person also. So we should be very careful not to hurt anyone by our words. We should always say loving things. We should always try to bring out the best in everyone. That is the way to live a life full of uh, freedom and carefreeness and good nature. So whenever we say or do good things, the good things come back to us. These good things, they influence us positively, right? So in this way, we are able to look at all of these three different kinds of pravritti. So we have covered up to the fifth one, Atma, Sharif, Indriya, Arth, Buddhi, Mana. Six we have done. This is pravritti is the seventh one, the seventh of the Prameyam. So if you look at the uh, explanation that pravritti, then you will see that uh, that pravritti, it tends to take us to uh, different what we call karma phalam. Whenever we do any pravritti or any action, it will bring us a fruit, right? So fruit, what does every fruit entail? Every karma phala entail, it is, we call it a fault, we call it a dosha. So the next one is dosha. So because of every activity, it tends to tie us down in the world. It tends to keep us bound in the cycle of birth and rebirth. So that will come in the next two verses. So we'll just take up dosha in the next verse. So what is dosha? 18th sutra. So pravartana lakshanaha dosha. So pravartana, any kind of activity that is there, pravartana, that is lakshana. What is the characteristic of that? What is the pointer towards that? It is a dosha. So every activity has a dosha. So it can have different kinds of dosha that are, you have raga, dvesha, mudataha, vidvansataha, different kinds. So if I explain every kind of activity, it produces certain kind of effect on us. So if we are doing good, if we are doing good to someone, then it will bring good to us, right? If we are doing bad to someone, it will bring badness to us. If we are attracted towards someone, then it will bring us raga. It will bring us attachment to that person. If we do not like a person, then it will bring dvesha to us. It will bring us hatred in our mind. If we do not study something properly, then it will bring a fault of murta. So stupidity within us. So any kind of pravritti, any kind of action will ultimately bring us a fruit. All of these fruits, what does they do? You've seen earlier also, each fruit will bring with it its own paristhiti, situation. Each fruit will bring a situation which we'll have to face so that we can overcome the faults of that activity. So whenever I do something wrong, something wrong will come to me also, and I have to face it to realize that I don't have to do that wrong thing again, right? And if I do something good, then I will be able to bear the good fruit of that, and I'll realize that this is something I have to keep on doing. So all of these, but in all of these, we don't have to bind ourselves. That is the main thing. Binding towards the fruit is the thing that causes the most problem, because if we even if we do something good and gain good out of that, we can have a what we call raga, attachment to that fruit. So that attachment will keep us binding in that cycle. Like some people, uh, what shall I say, almost all people are attracted towards money. Sometimes that running after money, it becomes a passion so much that all of our other things suffer. Our private lives suffer, all our relationships suffer, everything suffers because of that. So ultimately, running after or getting attached to any good thing also will have its after effects. It will help. It will make us lose balance. Samatvam हमारा खराब कर दे. It will make us lose that balance in life, right? So we have to do every activity without the sense of ego, without the sense of doership. So in this way, we will able to go beyond the dosha, the faults that are accompanied by every activity. Every pravritti, every action is accompanied by certain faults. Those faults, if we have to overcome, then we have to go beyond the sense of ego. Stop doing with sense of doership. As in Gita also, Bhagwan says, Karmane vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Your duty is only in doing the actions, the fruits will take care of themselves, right? So in this way, that these doshaha, the pravritti doshaha is to be avoided, then we have to give up our doership of all of these actions, right? So when we do this, all these actions, what will they do? They bring us karma phalam. Those karma phalam will, at the end of this existence of this body, they will take us to punarjanma. That punarjanma will take us to a new body. So that is explained in the next, that is the topic of the next sutra, punarutpatti pretyabhav. So that will continue in the next class, right? So we'll wind up for today, and then we'll continue next week or possibly. Any questions anyone wants to ask? Manisha, George, anything you didn't understand or wasn't clear in today's class?
All good on my end.
All good? Okay. Okay then, we'll wind up for today then. Om Purnamada